We are here talking about Mosaic Performing Arts Academy, and you all have a concert coming up. Now, before we get into the concert, can you all talk about the Academy first and let the people know what your vision is for the Academy?
Yeah. Do you want to start?
Yeah, I can. So Mosaic initially came about because we've noticed that in the educational space for the performing arts, it tends to be very theory-driven, just in my personal experience. It tends to lean towards education and just furthering knowledge, which is 100% valid. But I do think, and I'm saying, Mark, we've had a lot of conversations about this, there is a need for performance. And we feel as though that push for performing is not as strong as it could be. And not just in music, but also in acting, because Mosaic initially started as an acting academy.
Right.
And then music and dance came after. So especially for acting, you know, performing is just the crux of it, it's the bread and butter.
Okay.
You know?
So how do you balance the education and the performance? Because as you mentioned, the knowledge is very important, but being able to, for lack of a better term, perform in a setting where the actual where you need to apply the knowledge in a practical setting. How do you balance the two?
So we do like to have. Sorry, do you want to take this one?
I can take this one.
Okay.
Sure, no problem.
So I just want to first start off with our name, right? So Mosaic. And when you think of Mosaic, you think of just a bunch of different things coming together to form a picture, like an artwork. And that's what we wanted to introduce Mosaic as. So we're bringing dance, we're bringing acting, we're bringing music. We even want to bring art at some point to create a holistic, like, art piece, if that makes sense.
Sure. Yes.
And so in that, like Mark was rightfully saying, what next? And performance is like a major thing. So for this entire term, we've been focusing on the performance. We're like, okay, everybody has their set performance, like what their routine and what they're gonna do. And whether it's music, you have all your kids doing their own pieces. I have all my kids doing our own pieces. And we just wanna create a culture around it that fosters that performance is like important. And we want our kids to have fun out there, you know?
For the layman who wouldn't fully understand the distinctive differences between technical knowledge of performance, what you're speaking to is not just the ability to know what notes to press and at what time to press them, but how to then turn that into something that will, you know, evoke an emotion, be more than just a robotic recreation that you can just put in a computer and, digitally recreate this based on what's written, but rather someone to individualize it and maybe impart some of themselves into it, right?
Interpretation. Yeah. So I would just mention the stuff that I was mentioning before in terms of just you end up with a lot of students that just know how to play really virtuosic pieces, but can't function too much in a band setting. Their active listening is not something that's really well developed. Even just being able to, something like improvisation. There are a lot of people that they will sit down, they'll play grade 8 and above pieces, or they have this really high knowledge of even with acting, but you ask them to do something that can impart themselves into the instrument, and it is a struggle because that is something that has not been developed, and that is something that's really important.
So for acting, would a similar thing be, well, you could copy a performance, but then the question is, can you make your own performance? Like, could that be fair?
There's probably the difference between like a solo monologue and
So one thing we're trying to do with our kids is not just be like, okay, this is a really popular piece, go mimic it exactly. Because that's not what acting is. Acting is an internal, journey. It's bringing your own story and your own just little tweaks and nuances to the character. So two people like you and I, Mark, we can play two characters and it'd be completely different. We can make two completely different interpretations of this one character. And we're given the same information, but it's just different. And that's one thing I don't want my kids to do, where it's like, well, our students, we just call them our kids because we love them. That's one thing we don't want our students to do, is just be like, okay, well, I can copy this exactly. You have to bring your own to it, your own uniqueness.
For sure. And with that exposure, they're able to develop on their own and become self-sufficient artists. And it's one of those things, as ironically having this conversation with a friend last night actually, and it's there's always that journey of knowing when the because he's a singer, knowing when the singer stops and the artist begins,
Yes.
right? So it's a matter of when does the artist, Chelsea, when did the artist Mark, without the hyphen, start, that sort of thing. So tell us about the concert that is happening this Friday, the 25th of July at 6:30 p.m. at the Cascade Community Center.
Okay, so one thing we're very proud of is the name, and names are something that's very big for us. So with the title, A Whole New World, we were, this is our debut showcase, right?
Right.
And it's kind of like a play on words of, yes, of course, Aladdin and, that gorgeous song and everything. Yes. But we are bringing people into the new world that we want to create of performance, right. Especially under. I did come up with it. Yes, we were really just brainstorming, and I'm like, this sounds right.
Okay.
Let's just go with that.
Yeah.
But do you want to take the rest of it?
Yeah. So because we've definitely talked a lot about the culture that we want to foster around performance, but there is also a bit of a disconnect because not many of our students have that performance experience yet. Right. So because a lot of them are young, we have students as young as 5 years old going up and playing for the first time on piano and stuff like that, and some as young as I think 8 for acting. So seven. So it can be really jarring. As all of us here are performers, we know it can be really jarring. So this first showcase is something that is more very recital, where it's also a lot smaller, a lot more intimate. That's why we chose the Cascade Community Center. It's a place that we do have a relationship with. We held our first acting workship there this year. So yes, full circle. We're coming back to there, and it's a lot more intimate, so that when these kids, when these very young with no performance experience, or even the ones that do have performance experience with, let's say, larger choirs, but now we're showing them what it's like to do solo, because we have some that are playing and singing at the same time. That's not easy. So
it's not.
So we don't want to give that added pressure of them looking out and then seeing a sea of 300, 400, 500, 600 people. So we're keeping it very small for this first one, because we do plan to have other showcases and other performances and stuff like that later in the year, so that this is just something that they can say, okay, we did this, we have that experience, I've been on a stage, so that when we put them in front of that sea of people later on in the year, it's not so jarring for them.
Right. How can, and this is something great for parents to keep in mind, how can parents reach out to you and let's say they wanted to enroll their child into the academy? How can they reach out to you?
Yeah, so, they can reach out to us directly on our Instagram. We have a public page, and our registration form is on there, so you guys can go ahead.
Mosaicperforms.tt.
Okay, mosaicperforms.tt. And the reason I said that is because it's very difficult. You can't learn everything all in one place, and it is community it's community organizations like this, like the community choirs that we have, like the other performing arts academies that we have, that strengthen the overall, not just I would say that strengthens the performance capabilities of our young artists, of our young children, because even as a teacher, sometimes you don't really, I don't expect my students to go into music and pursue it on a huge level, but I treat it as such, whereas that they can walk away with much knowledge and much appreciation for the art form. So that's always important. All of these community organizations. What is your hope for Mosaic? Let's say the next 2, 3, 5 years.
Oh gosh. Well, Mark always has to rein me in, because I'm just like, let's turn Mosaic into the next Broadway.
I love that. I love that, yes.
But he's very supportive, I would say.
Okay.
And he's just like, okay, that's great, but what are the steps? How do we get there? We have a lot of big dreams. We want to reach out to so many different communities, especially in Trinidad, because one thing that's important to us is being accessible, being inclusive, bringing to kids who may not be able to afford it, may not be able to, may not even know, like, what is acting, what is music.
Right.
They may not know.
Or know that it's available here.
Exactly.
Sure.
So that's one thing that's really important to us. We want to obviously expand regionally.
Of course.
But one thing that is near and dear to our hearts is just giving back. And we started with a free acting workshop. And we want to we will keep doing that annually. Whether the next one might be a dance workshop, a free dance workshop, or music.
Right. Right.
So that's kind of where we want to go with Mosaic.
Okay, that's amazing. And I mean, you have to dream big when it comes to
Yes.
these things. You have to dream
Yes.
big, but you also have to have these steps.
Plans, yeah.
You have to grow sustainably.
You have to grow
Yes.
sustainably. Yes.
It ties me back to what we were speaking about before, because I do wonder if the observation you made, you could be technically proficient, are you performers? How creative are you, I guess is the implication. And then it leads me to the question of, how much do you think that impacts the actual creating original work? Because that's something that came up here on with other guests. You know, we are performers and the industry is trying to amount to something. But if we're just doing other people's work, to what extent is it just always going to be a derivative of someone else's industry?
Yes.
And that's going to limit how much it could grow, because we have to pay them copyright and all of that.
Yes. Well, actually, a couple of our students, I think 3 of our students actually wrote their own pieces for the show, which we are
Acting
so
students.
proud of that. Yeah, well, they'll be my acting students. But I do agree
Well,
that...
to some extent, that's even more impressive, because like acting is even less known in TNT, I would imagine, to music, right? So to say,
Yes.
oh, we're going so far as to writing scripts.
Yes. We really do have like
Kudos.
some,
And not even just monologues, but full dialogue interactions
Yeah.
between
Yes.
2 and more people that they've wrote them. And these are people that, what are they, like 9?
like
10?
young,
Yeah.
very young.
What is
So it's there.
What is the greatest? What are like those moments where you're in the class and you see them do something or they interact with each other, and then you're like, you know what, we're doing something good here. Like, what's one of those moments that you could recall?
You want to take this one first?
I think so. I think for me, one of those moments where it just comes over me that, okay, wow, we're doing something good, would be if I am trying to impart something, and it usually doesn't take place in one class, I think. It takes place over a period of time. Like I would have a kid that's prepping for exams, and then they come in and they're like, okay, for instance, and I might get a little theoretical, I'm a bit of a theory nerd. So I have this way that I like to show them how to read music, where I don't say, okay, don't look at everything where it's just note. Like this is E, every good boy deserves food. You know what I mean? Right. I would say, let's look at the context, let's look at the contour, and let's also, because we're playing piano and you know there's 2 hands happening, I would say let's read in bar by bar what chord is happening in the left hand. Because a lot of them tend to say, okay, I'm playing C, G, C, and then E here, then B, D, you know, like that. But I say, no, let's think of the chord. C, G, C, we're playing a C chord. You go G, B, G, B, that's a G chord again. Right. So then when they start to think like that, I realize in the next class they are flying through the music because now they're not taking it note by note for each finger on each hand. They're just reading in blocks, because for me, I tell the parents, I tell the students, I say music is a language. Music is music. I treat reading music theory the way they would be in a Spanish class. I say, let's not write any notes. Let's not write the notes underneath, because no one does that for a language, right? So when I see them come and they're like, okay, I've grasped this, I've understood what you showed me, and now my sight reading has improved. I'm just like, wow, okay. Because me, I used to struggle with sight reading until I started looking at it like that.
It's like you're not playing notes. It's almost like how when you learn to fluently speak in sentences, as opposed to trying to think out each word, word. You're like, not note, but like, this is the line. And at the end of the line, next line.
And another thing is that, I mean, I always say that music is a language too, because we need to be able to read it, write it, and speak it, right, on varying levels, and it has context it, much like any sort of language does. So if we could just pull up the flyer one more time just before we head out. Mosaic Academy presents A Whole New World, shining, shimmering, splendid. Nice. Friday the 25th of July at 6:30 p.m. at the Cascade Community Center. Complimentary meal included with ticket, and you can purchase tickets at 339-8555. And as they said, they are on social media, Mosaic Performs .tt. Yes, thank you very much.
I've only now noticed a detail on the flyer where you have like the masks for the theater, the ballet dancer, and the music notes, right? So before I didn't know, is this a dance group? But it's like, oh, then.
I did not mention tickets are $150.
A mosaic.
idiots. What is true? That is my first impression. But you know, when you do fancy the first time, now you know the standard is here. It can't go down to here.
Yeah,
now you have to do something above the next time.
We're only gonna get bigger and better.
Of
So
course. And tickets are $150. I did not mention that tickets and that's amazing. So go and support this wonderful academy that's doing great things. Chelsea, Mark, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Of course.
It's so great. Can't wait to hear much of all of the big things you all are going to do.